Now to the wildfires burning across parts of Western Canada. In BC, flames continue to threaten the city of Fort Nelson and a nearby First Nation, forcing thousands of people to seek shelter where they can. Many have ended up hundreds of kilometres away in Fort St. John. Happy to be safe for now, but still worrying about the threat to their homes.
It's just a beautiful place, and it's just so peaceful to live there.
Yeah.
And if anybody could help out the community and everybody that's in Fort St. John, Dawson, Prince George, Chetwynd, anybody that has helped out the community of Fort St. John, we all really appreciate it. Taking in the livestock, taking in people, offering your guys' homes, and just being there to support the community. Fort St. John has always been number one for that. We've always been there for everybody, no matter what. It's actually pretty great, this town.
A lot of support there. CBC's Yvette Brand is in Fort St. John, where so many evacuees have found refuge.
I'm here in Fort St. John outside the North Peace Arena, where there's an evacuation center. Many people have lined up this morning to re-register to try to find places to stay. Their hotel rooms they've been kicked out of because there's someone else booked there. It's getting very crowded here in Fort St. John. Thousands of people have left from Fort Nelson, which is 400 kilometers north of here. And overnight there, the winds died down. It was calmer. There was a peaceful night. There's about 50 people still there trying to fight those fires, trying to keep the ground wet, trying to watch and video back to show people what's happening in their town. The concern is that today the winds might pick up again to 20 kilometers per hour, and they're hoping that they don't turn toward Fort Nelson and spread those embers. That's the concern, and the hope is that in the next few days we're going to see some rain. Yvette Brand, CBC News, Fort St. John.
For more on the wildfires burning in British Columbia and the rest of Canada, let's go to Sarah Galashan, who's in Coquitlam, BC. So, Sarah, Fort Nelson is a priority spot right now, but it is not the only wildfire in that province that has prompted evacuation orders.
That's right, Jacqueline. So in Fort Nelson, the main threat is the Parker Lake wildfire, and that is right now what we consider to be a wildfire of note, meaning that it is burning so large, it is very visible, but also it's a real threat to public safety. It's the only wildfire of note right now in the province, so it's getting a lot of attention, and rightfully so. It is really a threat to the community of Fort Nelson. But in the last 24 hours, there have been other wildfires that are burning out of control and have prompted evacuation orders, at least 2 in the last 24 hours. And one of them is threatening the Doig River First Nation. Doig River First Nation, you can see there's a map we had there to show you. Just it's quite close to Fort St. John, where we already know thousands have had to flee from Fort Nelson. And as you just heard Yvette talk about, they're having a hard time finding hotel rooms there. It's quite crowded, she said, in Fort Nelson. So add to that now on top the fact that you have another evacuation order from a nearby First Nation, and it's starting to become a bit of a crunch as to where evacuees are going to be able to go. And it's only mid-May. So that's starting to prompt questions about, the kind of preparations that have been made in British Columbia. There have been a lot, but is it going to be enough? Previous 3 years, we've had 2 of the worst wildfire seasons ever. Last year, a record $1 billion was the cost to that. And now add in all of the preparations that have been made here. The Premier saying just a short time ago that BC is now spending 9 times on wildfires, including preparation as has been spent by past governments. They have opened a training center at Thompson Rivers University to train wildfires in preparation for is what could be to come in future seasons, but in particular for the season that we are about to see, or maybe already are starting to see signs of. As I said, the Premier talked a short time ago. Here's David Eby on his feelings for what's to come here and how prepared BC is.
Functionally, at the provincial level, we're standing up an army between equipment and the frontline wildfire staff fighting those fires. This is not a cheap enterprise, but safety for our communities when it comes to wildfire is non-negotiable. We're going to ensure that people have the supports that they need and that we do all we can to ensure that they are protected from wildfire.
He said that the drought in British Columbia right now is remarkable. The risk is real. And Jacqueline, he pleaded with anyone as we head into the long weekend to pay attention to the fire bans that are in place. And if you are permitted to have a fire of some kind, just be very careful in doing so.
Sarah, you're also tracking other fires happening in the country right now. Can you bring us up to speed on what's going on in some other provinces?
Yeah, we're watching a few provinces quite closely here. Northwest Territories to start. There's 3 communities right now that are working on alternative evacuation plans. Not because the fires itself are threatening the communities, but not because they're so close at the moment, but it's the highway access. Right now, there is access on Highway 1, but that has been a little bit intermittent. It has been closed and could have to close again because of wildfires. So there's some consideration as a preemptive measure that a state of emergency might have to be declared. Fort Simpson Mayor is sort of putting that out there as a hypothesis. Of course, Northwest Territory, very familiar with that as a precaution, the idea of a state of emergency. That update is going to be coming later this hour, so we'll be watching for that. In Alberta, there are evacuation orders for communities around Grand Prairie, and they remain in place. Over in Fort McMurray, there's evacuation alerts, and there are some communities in Fort McMurray who have actually had their alerts upgraded to a warning, meaning the risk of having to evacuate and leave because of forest fire. The forest fire that is threatening is expected to be moving toward the community of Fort McMurray today. And so those residents are told that now they're under warning. The risk of having to evacuate is becoming very real. And then in Manitoba, we have the evacuation still in place for Cranberry Portage. Now that fire is not at this point growing, it's not moving, but they are thinking that this is going to take weeks in order to put that fire out. That's not to say that's how long the evacuation orders will remain in place. They do, though, as I say, remain in place right now. And the Premier of Manitoba is going to be touring the fire zone. In fact, I believe that's probably what he's doing right now. So we are expecting in the next hour or so, maybe 2 hours, to be getting an update from Manitoba as to the situation there.
We're going to talk more about the situation in Manitoba just ahead here, Sarah. Thanks so much for the latest. That's CBC's Sarah Galashan in Coquitlam. So as Sarah was saying, Manitoba's wildfire service says that the fire near Cranberry Portage could be burning for weeks to come. Now, that has some residents wondering if they'll get all the support that they need. For more on this, I want to bring in Jessica Janile. She was evacuated from Cranberry Portage with her 5 children over the weekend, and we've reached her in the Pas. Jessica, thank you so much for making time for us.
Yeah, no problem.
You're good now. You're safe right now. You have a moment to talk to us, but how are you doing?
Overwhelmed. I'm worried. In the days to come, I don't know what to expect, but the fire's behind us. We made it out safe. It's hard. This is a nightmare.
Take us back to this evacuation, because how you got your family out of it was pretty unusual, because you were separated from your kids at the time when the evacuation order came into place. Can you tell us about what happened?
Yeah, actually, I was in Flin Flon, which is 47 kilometers north of Cranberry. And I was there with my mother and my sister, and we were just doing some little bit of shopping, and I received a phone call from my oldest son, and he was like, "Mom, you need to get here now. I think we're being evacuated." So without hesitation, I zipped down the highway towards Cranberry, and I was stopped at the Baker's Narrows, which is right in the middle of Cranberry and Flin Flon, and the police officer was not going to let me by. I said, "No, I'm going. My children are there. It's me and my children, and they're there." So he let me by. I like I said, I sped as fast as I could, and once we hit Otter Lake, it got real. The fire was rolling. You could see it. It was black. There was ashes everywhere. The highway was still visible, thankfully. So I had gotten to Cranberry, and I went to my kids. I caught up and I said, "Okay, guys, let's go. We got to get going." The police officer had said, "You have 2 hours to get out of Cranberry," which turned into 20 minutes before we didn't know. Like, this fire spread so fast. We went to the gas station because without even thinking of getting gas in my vehicle before I left Flin Flon, I was like, I'm gone. So I went to the gas station. They were amazing. We are so fortunate for those, Melissa and Blair Lundy. They have the local gas station there. Vehicles were lined up to get their gas, and it went very smoothly. I ran into a couple of my friends who I was like, you guys, let's go to Thompson because there's a fire in Wanless. And so that's what we did. Further down the Thompson Highway, it was turning black. We couldn't see red yet, but we did see the smoke. We smelt it. It was ashes once again. So the fire was moving, which like we were terrified. Like, is it following us? Are we going to get turned around again? Like, I can't even explain it. I can't even tell you how scary it was. We all made it out safe, everyone in the town. And we're very fortunate for our firefighters and our local fire department just being there. And, you know, it was scary. And I hope that I can recover from this because this was a nightmare.
My goodness, it's one thing to, you know, be ordered to evacuate, but another to be feeling like you were going to be held back from getting to your kids. And then, I mean, thank goodness you're all okay and you all got out safe, but that really must stick with you.
I could not get to my children fast enough. I felt time was slowing down on me. The minute I seen the fire, it just got real. It got more real. Luckily for myself and my sister, my younger sister and my mother, we were together. We were coming home, and my mother was so amazing to keep us calm. Like, I was driving. I was driving. We were in my truck, and fortunate enough for me, I was in Flin Flon doing laundry. So
you've got fresh laundry.
Clothes. Yes. But, you know, you got to take as much positives as you can from this negative, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And the boys are happy and safe, and we just got to move forward. And, you know, we're a team. Cranberry is one big, beautiful place, and we're all in contact with each other and giving updates. And there's meals provided for us now, and it's a good feeling for sure.
And Jessica, you're with your grandfather right now, and all 5 kids. You're in a 1-bedroom apartment right now that he's lent to you. Is that right?
Yeah. He actually is. He let us stay here, so he is in Thompson with my mother.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but we are here, and it's a little bit squishy, but we're together.
The most important part.
So I'm very fortunate that he has a place here in the Paw, because there were no vacancies left in Thompson, and so we had to come back this way. Last night, actually. Yeah.
Jessica, we're glad you're safe and that you've got the support that you need for the short term here, and hopefully it is just the short term, and you can head home soon. Really appreciate you joining us. It's Jessica Janile in the Paw, Manitoba.